So, Matt,
are you proposing?
You
said you wouldn't do it like this on the podcast.
All right. Well, luckily for everybody involved, it turns out that you are, my friend, already a married man.
Oh, you got me. Okay.
All right. Well, that's probably better for everybody. I wanted to ask you, this has been on my mind for a while. I wanted to ask you, when you got married, did you feel pressured, not by your lovely spouse, who's a friend of mine as well, like, did you feel pressured by society to get a diamond?
I felt the pressure of that which creates diamonds upon carbon. Yeah, I don't even know how to state it. At the time when I got married, there was no other option. There was the possibility to get a sapphire, I think. Like, maybe if you were just out there enough, you could get a sapphire instead of a diamond.
But you had to finesse it, right? Like, okay, your PR had to be really good.
Yeah, and then the pressure internally from the spouse was, let's go with a diamond.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. That makes sense. And, sometimes, as they say, one must pick their battles. But it's interesting when we say that you had to have good PR if you were going to go for a sapphire or some other precious stone, because there is a tremendous amount of money, time, and as we'll see, blood poured into the ongoing PR campaign to make people feel like they have to have a diamond. And in this week's classic episode, we dive deep into the story of diamonds and how these stones became associated with meaningful moments in people's lives, and what, perhaps most importantly, the consequences of that successful marketing have been for people around the world.
Outside of, our wallets.
Your wallet.
My wallet, for sure.
From UFOs to ghosts and government cover-ups, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
And I'm Ben, and today we have a very special guest with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to introduce you to someone you probably already know if you have checked out any How Stuff Works podcast. That is Lauren Vogelbaum. How's it going, Lauren?
Not too bad. How about you guys?
It's going pretty well. It's nice to see you in here with us.
Yeah,
with our super producer Noel as well.
And I like what you guys do at the studio for this podcast. It's kind of bright and cheery when I'm in here for Forward Thinking, but there's kind of this miasma rising up from the floor grates, which I didn't even know that we had. So that's very fancy. Yeah,
that's the miasma switch over there by the on-air light.
I missed it.
So, Lauren, you are on numerous podcasts with How Stuff Works, right?
Currently, I am on Forward Thinking, and then I'm also on 2 video shows, which you know because you're on them with me, Ben. Brain Stuff and also What the Stuff.
Yes, and recently you did a fantastic Brain Stuff episode about diamond rings, which inspired us to ask you to come be on this podcast. And I don't know about you, Matt, but I'm super excited that she's here.
Oh yeah, I got to watch the video a couple times now just to make sure I understood some of the facts, because I think you laid out a lot of the things we're going to talk about in some disturbing detail.
I was trying in the Brain Stuff episode to be really straightforward about it. The episode was about why diamonds appear in engagement rings so frequently, because that was not always the case, and as it turns out, it's due to advertising, and I have a lot of feelings about it that I could not put in that episode because, we were trying not to piss everyone on YouTube off entirely. We wanted to present the facts.
Right, yeah, and I think there was a definite diplomatic tone to that episode, but we wanted to delve into some of the dirty secrets, the things you might not know about diamonds, and what show better than Stuff They Want You to Know for this, and what guest host better than our resident diamond expert now.
Oh,
actually.
oh, okay.
No pressure.
Sure. Thanks. Totally chill.
Let's get into the science of what a diamond is, just to set up some background here. A diamond is nothing more than highly compressed carbon, the stuff that makes up you and me and all of the life that lives on this planet that can be considered living, at least that we know of, and on this planet.
Yeah, it's a, if we want to get fancy, if we want to get fancy, it's a metastable allotrope of carbon, which is what you should say if you want to look like a nerd at the jewelry store. And we'll talk about whether you should go to a jeweler at some point.
Oh yeah, wait, let me get that again. What is it?
Metastable allotrope of carbon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Metastable. That means that it's really crystallized.
Okay.
Totes crystallized.
Which is part of the big draw for diamonds, right?
Well, yeah, they're super awesome. When you get down to it, they are crystallized 100 miles below the Earth's surface under these tremendous pressures and temperatures. And I can say the numbers out loud in 2 or 4 takes at least. It's 435,113 pounds per square inch, and temperatures of above 400 degrees Celsius, which equals out to about 752 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really warm.
Yeah,
it's not
toasty.
It's not chilly.
No, it's not chilly. The fact that diamonds are made from carbon, as a kid, this was always really interesting to me, because I don't know about you guys, but I had my spider sense tingling when I first learned that diamonds were made out of carbon as a child, and I thought, wait, isn't carbon just everywhere? Is it just me, or is this an Emperor's New Clothes situation? And then I didn't think about it for years. But it's weird because diamonds are the most popular gem, right? And while they're often portrayed as a very rare commodity, what we're going to find out is that is not entirely the case. And
that's not the case. It's just flat not.
And well, it was before the 1870s or so.
Yes, in 1870, a specific thing happened that blew the market right open.
Yeah, and we're going to find out what that thing is. So as gems go, diamonds are actually the most common, and it sounds weird, but if you think about it, there's a reason why 75% of brides in the U.S. wear a diamond ring, right? That's a stat that I didn't just make up. It comes from a guy named Kenneth Gassman, who is president of the Jewelry Industry Research Institute, which is a thing.
What an institute.
What a weird job.
Right?
To explain. What do you do? Well, I work at the Institute. I would just say the Institute.
For all of them? Just no matter what it is?
Any institute. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room then, De Beers. What's up with De Beers?
Well, De Beers is a company that controls much of the world's diamond supply. They're a South Africa-based company. And well, it's interesting. We refer to them a lot as the cartel, the De Beers cartel. Yeah. And this is fascinating. Ben, I wonder if you could go into a little bit about why we call them the cartel.
Because they're diamond cartel, Matt.
Right. Because they're a bunch of people, separate groups almost that came together to form this thing. That's what we've talked about cartels before. Mm-hmm. And you have to imagine it when we talk about conspiracies a lot of times. I know I'm going a little off book here, sorry, but we talk about groups of people who conspire together to get things done that may or may not be above board. And this group really just meets those qualifications really well.
Yeah, we should make a
checklist.
Yeah. So we also know that this group, De Beers, although they get a lot of bad press and they get a lot of good press, I assume, they are just inundated in the conspiracy world because of their founder, Cecil Rhodes, or maybe it's pronounced Cecil.
I imagine he was a British fellow, so yeah.
So it was Cecil?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, now I like him more. So he...
Not sure if you should.
I don't know if I should. That's kind of an arbitrary reason. But he didn't just start De Beers.
No. Well, okay. So in 1870, a deposit of diamonds was discovered in South Africa. And this was the first time that a large number of diamonds had ever been found anywhere. Before then, you had to pan them individually out of rivers. It was backbreaking, silly work because, who knows where a diamond's going to show up? Nobody. And that's why they were so valued, because there weren't any of them basically anywhere. And then all of a sudden this mine opened up. There was a huge boom similar to the gold boom here in the United States. And this British dude, Cecil Rhodes, moved in and started buying up all of this property around South Africa, including the farm of two brothers by the names of Diedrich and Johannes de Beer.
Yes, where the name comes from. Cecil started out renting some pumping machines to people, and as he began playing this real-life Monopoly game, acquiring land, he started to work with these people I guess maybe the right word at this point is to develop the mining infrastructure, right? And along the way, Cecil led a very busy life, so those of you who are familiar with Cecil Rhodes probably want us to mention the founding of Rhodesia, the racially motivated land grabs, let's see what else, the Rhodes Scholarship, the various secret societies that this man is accused of either being a member of or founding himself. Some of those accusations hold some truth, like the racism and stuff, and other ones have yet to be proven is probably the nicest thing we could say about them. But this, we know, he met those brothers, right? And he said, guys, diamonds.
I see you have a nice little farm there.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to own that. And then he did. I'm not sure actually. I've not heard the story of how De Beers became the name of the company.
Yeah, I think it's found in the partnership because Cecil partnered up with a couple of other people. Currently, I believe De Beers is still owned by the Oppenheimer family.
Yeah, they purchased it in 1929, in fact. So that was a little bit down the road. Now,
something that you mentioned, Lauren, that I think we kind of really have to hit on here is that diamonds were not all over the place. I mean, at least you couldn't just go out and get a bunch of diamonds anywhere. And what they did is they found this huge amount of them. So they had to find a way to sell these things, right? Because they're cool gems. They look really shiny and pretty and people like those things. But you've got to find a reason that X wealthy person is going to want to buy one of these, and for a lot of money, because you're spending quite a bit of money to get them out of the ground.
It's not easy. I would not want to do it personally.
No. We'll get into that too. And one of the coolest things we're going to talk about is the story of how diamonds became a necessary part of the everyday life.
Yes, a conspiracy is afoot. Not a theory, an actual
conspiracy.
Mm-hmm. So we know that De Beers was enormously successful. And funny thing, I feel so bad for those brothers because they sold their claim. So they didn't get any benefit from this massive global entity.
I wonder what their grandchildren think about it.
They're probably so tired of hearing that question, you know? And say, De Beers, right? You're one of those people.
So you want to buy me a drink? And
Exactly.
they're like, we're broke, y'all.
Yeah. They probably quit drinking because of that question. But we know that the company itself was enormously successful. When Cecil Rhodes died in 1902, De Beers controlled around 90% of the world's diamond market. But where did this market come from? Matt, as you said, it didn't really exist prior to 1870. And we know, as we said, that they are fairly rare. They certainly were not considered the hallmark of love and commitment or whatever that they are considered today.
So you think about it, they stumbled upon this treasure trove of diamonds, this giant box that they opened up of diamonds. Whoa, what are we going to do with all these? So they've got a massive amount of supply, but very little demand.
Well, relatively little demand. At the time, I mean, up until, say, the end of the First World War, things were going really well for them. They were controlling the market very carefully. They were consolidating all of these smaller diamond corporations, leading up to them controlling 90% of the world's supply of it, and brought all of this together into such a successful business model that was just insidious and shiny at the same time. Brilliant, you might say. Yeah. I've already used that pun. I apologize, guys. That was in the video as well. But yeah, so it was going along like gangbusters right up until a whole bunch of world market kind of things led to diamonds decreasing in popularity pretty intensely. They were considered such a frivolity. In between the First and Second World Wars, there were depressions going on all over the world that no one wanted to buy these things.
Right. The idea would be if you have any scratch at all, then you should be spending it on something that is a necessity. So diamonds became this, the domain of the super wealthy.
Yeah.
You know?
Only if you have enough money to just literally throw away at this diamond.
A very important person who will come up in conversation very shortly said that at the time diamonds were considered just absolutely money down the drain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
so funny how diamonds are viewed now. Just that idea.
Ah, right. Yeah. Cause we all know a tale as old as time. You meet somebody, you fall in love, and you say, hey, let's make this official. Here's some jewelry. Let's do stuff. I don't know how it works. I'm just
pretty sure that's it. Yep.
So where did this come from? We know they weren't common beforehand. People wanted gems that seemed more exotic, right?
I think sapphires, opals, and rubies were the most popular engagement stones before the 1940s.
Yeah, what happened to that? It turns out that the concept of a diamond engagement ring or a wedding band is not some ancient tradition dating back to days of yore and living in caves. No, it's the work of one ad agency that I'm pretty impressed by, actually.
Yeah. Should we even say the name of the ad agency yet, or should we get into that later?
Well, if we say it 3 times, they appear before us, right?
Okay, let's not then. I guess we'll wait.
Let's just be judicious. Go ahead. Say it
All right.
like once, but not 3 times in a row.
N.W. Ayers and Sons. Now, they were fascinating. If you go on archive.org, you can find a couple of, I can't tell what the intent was for these pamphlets or these short books that they put out, but one of them was, I forget the name of it, but it was about their advertising technique. And you can look through this whole book and it teaches you, really, it's more like just somebody kind of boasting about how awesome their ad agency is. That's what it feels like to me.
Not an ad man doing that.
Well, it goes into numbers and how big they are and all the great advertisers that they control. But it's fascinating to get an insight on this company. And you can kind of see their thinking almost just by reading a couple of these pamphlets on how they worked the diamond business.
Yeah. They were already really famous by the 1930s for doing this deep market research and pulling in psychological research as well. And it was creepy. They were really good at what they did. And so when De Beers found themselves in this tight spot, I believe it was the heir to the Oppenheimer empire, and he was like 29 at the time, something like that, like definitely under the age of 30. And he went and had a business lunch or something with the head of N.W. Ayer and set up this deal to have Ayer look into how they could sell diamonds.
Yeah, because there was a problem. The business was still going, but it was stagnating, and the markets affected by the war were a heavy blow to De Beers because so few people would actually buy diamonds,
Yeah, only some 10% of U.S. engagement rings at the time bore diamonds.
And that was a fancy 10%. And additionally, the total number of diamonds in the United States had declined almost 50% in the United States since the close of World War I. Europe at the time, torn apart by war or has burgeoning wars, depending on which country you're looking at. And so they couldn't be a diamond market anymore. They were busy trying to stay alive. And De Beers had mastered the supply side, but De Beers needed to get this to create the demand as well. And so the clever folks at N.W. Ayer did their weird market research thing, which again, I totally agree with you guys. It's so creepy, especially for that time period.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it was actually on the surface, a fairly simple process. They would go out and just get basically the lay of the land, ask people, hey, what do you think about diamonds? So what's your perception of diamonds? Let's talk about who would own a diamond. Where should a diamond go? And after talking to people, they found that they were seen, like we said, as a luxury item, something that only someone very rich would have. So they figured out that they definitely wanted to market to the U.S., like hardcore. They wanted to just go all in, and we were going to sell diamonds to these Americans no matter if they like it or not. And again, primarily because as we discussed, Europe was now engaged in the beginnings of World War II.
Sure, yeah.
So they really targeted the U.S., and they targeted the U.S. mind, the American mind.
And here we have, I think now it's time to bring one of our protagonists, or maybe she's more of an anti-hero, into this story. There is a young copywriter who changes the world and makes probably the most successful ad campaign in modern history. I know it was rated as the ad campaign of the century, in 2000, but who are we talking about?
Frances Garrity, a young ad woman who had actually just been hired in 1943 by N.W. Ayer.
She is the person, you can read an amazing story about her in the New York Times. She's the person who is racking her brain thinking, what do I do? How do I convince people that this thing they absolutely don't need is necessary?
Oh yeah, she was hired to replace a woman who had just left N.W. Ayer. And at the time, women were hired to sell things to women. It was considered a job that only a woman ad copywriter could possibly do. And she was paired with another lady over in publicity named Dorothy Dignam?
Yes,
Dignam.
yeah, yeah. She's really cool because she had this, this is the lady who had a list of questions that guys would ask her about women.
Like stupid questions, like her dude coworkers would come up and be like, is this an inverted pleat seam? Yeah. And she just kept a list of these like under her typewriter.
She considered this great market research for things a woman is supposed to know.
Right.
And these two people formed this dynamic duo, changing the U.S. and then later the global perception of diamonds. So the piece of trivia here that you should walk away with is that Frances Garrity, ladies and gentlemen, is the woman responsible for A Diamond is Forever.
Yes, she wrote that in 1947. She had been on the team since 1943, working with N.W. Ayer and De Beers. However, they were looking for kind of an all-encompassing slogan, and she kind of jotted it down by the bedside one night, realizing that she had failed to come up with anything that day, and went in the next morning and presented it to the team, and nobody cared. Everyone was like, that kind of sucks, but I guess it's the best one. Let's go with it, whatever.
Yeah.
More martinis, I imagine, is what was going on at the time.
That's so funny. Now, some of these ads that were developed around that time are pretty out there.
Oh, they're great. They're so beautiful.
Yeah, that's so in genre. We have a couple queued up that we were hoping, ladies and gentlemen, you would enjoy hearing. And again, this is just a piece of history. I don't think people write ads this way anymore, at least not in English.
There's some magazine ads that I think have longer copy. Not along these lines, though.
Not along these lines. Matt, do you want to read one for us?
Sure. So there's one here called The Star of Hope, and I'm just going to read it for you. The engagement diamond on her finger is as bright as a tear, but not with sadness. Like her eyes, it holds a promise of cool dawns together, of life grown rich and full and tranquil. Its lovely assurance shines through all the hours of waiting, to kindle with joy and precious meaning at the beginning of their new life to be.
Bravo.
That was really okay? Beautiful, yeah.
That's cool. Maybe I was wrong about diamonds, man.
I know. I don't know. I think I need some. My reading is not going to be quite as dramatically interpretive as yours, Matt.
Oh, come on, don't sell yourself short. You can do this.
This one was called Majesty of Love Told in Starlight.
Yes.
All right, I'm on board.
In flaming glory, kingly Leo stands exalted in the sky, a star-bright monarch lovers look to as they dream. Even before seers first sighted this royal symbol, one star was formed in the earth to someday shine for you. Your engagement diamond with noble fire reflects the greatness of your love and all its majesty.
Man.
Wow.
And that's where I had to stop transcribing because I was laughing too hard.
That's a great read.
It's It's beautiful writing, actually, which is what I'm noticing here with both of these. It's really nice.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone had written that to me, I would have been like, I'm not sure why you're selling me stuff, but that's really nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
I didn't know you cared,
So
Francis.
this capitalized on this thing. They said, okay, if a diamond doesn't have an intrinsic physical value, right? It's not ductile like gold. It is widely used in industrial applications, but not so much at the time. They just had a boatload of diamonds, several boatloads of diamonds, and they said, well, how do we convince people we need these? We do it with this flowery language. We give you an emotional attachment. This love, or this diamond becomes a symbol of love. And they said, wait. People break up, though. Yeah, I know. Even in the 40s, people broke up. So, we've got to make sure that they don't resell these diamonds.
Yeah, we can't have them just flooding the market again afterwards.
Yeah, by controlling the market, you have to control the after sale as well.
Yeah.
It's worth more if they keep them forever.
Ah, yes, because you wouldn't want to throw away, grandma's engagement ring.
Oh, right.
No.
That's a precious family heirloom.
Yeah.
It means way more to you than it could possibly mean if you tried to sell it back, which is lucky because if you do try to sell a diamond back, you're not really going to get any money for it.
Right, yeah, it's like buying a boat or something. You lose so much value as soon as you leave the store. So the agency saw tremendous success, and De Beers, of course, saw success between 1938 and 1941. The sales in diamonds in the United States, which was tumbling downward, increased by 55%.
Oof.
Yeah.
In 4 years? That's crazy.
That's
okay.
crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine those meetings, like the top company meeting. There's like, oh, well, great job, everyone. Bonus for you, bonus for you, bonus for you.
I hope Frances got something because she was later going to be instrumental in this, right?
She reportedly did not see a whole lot of success during certainly her time at NWA. I've read, and this may or may not be apocryphal. I haven't double checked and found primary sources. I haven't talked to her because she passed away. But she, definitely hit that glass ceiling that was so common, especially for women, especially in ad agencies at the time.
Which is a shame because they had some brilliant and innovative ideas. And I believe it was the publicist who started saying, if we'll get the little ones, rather the less moneyed customers by getting them to emulate the big ones, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. She really pushed diamonds to be rented out, or not even rented, but just loaned out to celebrities and socialites and people like that for photo shoots and engagement shoots, for movies, for the red carpet, anything like that.
Pretty brilliant, gotta say.
Yeah, she wrote a newspaper article that would describe celebrities, but it was totally a diamond advertisement column.
Yeah, she was writing under a fake name.
Yeah, it was like Diamond Dot or something.
Wow.
Yeah, as we said, a little bit heavy-handed, but by God, it worked. They also created the 4 C's criteria, and that's what are they? Clarity,
cut, color, and carat weight. Yeah, that actually wouldn't come into play until the 1960s, and that was because another mine was discovered in Siberia. And because they realized that the conditions were kind of similar, so they had all of these people out looking for mines in Russia around that time, or I suppose the USSR, as it was then in history.
Oh, yes, as it was. I love that time. It's a very interesting time.
And I bring up the topic of these Russian or Soviet mines because the diamonds that were found in these mines were very much smaller than the South African diamonds. They are, relatively tiny. And so they had this huge influx of very small diamonds. People had previously been taught to buy bigger and bigger diamonds as the more worthwhile ones. And so now they were like, oh, how are we going to get people to buy these tiny things? And they were like, well, a small diamond can still be worth just as much if it's really quality.
Right,
Okay.
They changed the criteria for the valuation of the stone.
Okay, but anyway, another thing happened in the 60s in Japan, which was kind of a Western culture invasion that was occurring. So there was a whole nother market that De Beers could look at and go, hey, let's exploit this one now, guys.
Yeah, post-war, they started expanding throughout Europe, and Japan they saw enormous success, and they would repeat the success of their U.S. market in half the time.
Jeez.
And guys, we know it might sound like we're being a little bit snarky, and maybe you think that we're giving De Beers the short end of some figurative stick. I will say that we have several proven horrible things, and horrible is a fair word. So let's talk just a little bit about the actual diamond conspiracies, right?
Really quickly, before we get into the conspiratorial part, I just have to say, because there's some really dark things in here, and it makes me feel pretty terrible about my previous actions.
Why?
But as most of you know, I am married. I got married in 2009, and I did buy a diamond ring for my wife. And when I bought it, it was right around the time of the crash in 2007, 2008. And there was a diamond business going out of business in the mall where we used to work. And it was like 80% off.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh, wow.
80% off. And I bought this thing for nothing, and it was a fairly large, there's no way I could have afforded this diamond unless it was this, cheap. And even then, I had to spend way more money than I should have on it.
Oh, yeah. But the numbers I've seen are like 100 to 200% retail markup.
That's insane to me. And I felt tremendous pressure, not only, from society, and not necessarily from my wife and her family, but just I felt like I had to get something that would make her feel like she's worth more, right? I mean,
yeah.
And I don't know how much of that I put on myself, but still, it's crazy to think that I could have saved that money or done something else with
Bought
it, or
a lawnmower,
or we could have used that money for our house that we ended up buying. I mean, it's just really. It's really interesting when I look at myself and how I was somewhat a lot manipulated.
You're totally suckered into it.
You could have got a lawnmower, wingsuits.
Dude, so many lawnmowers.
Well, okay, two things before you move on. First of all, it's you and like 75% of the U.S. population. And that's a relatively low estimate. Like I've seen it as high as 80%. Wow. So you are not alone in this. And two, this is something of a side note, but I forgot to mention it earlier. Another interesting thing that happened with marriage in the 1930s and 40s that I think possibly helped diamonds boom out was that marriage laws were changing, okay? Previous to then, there was a law in place in most states that allowed women who had been engaged, if the engagement broke off, they could sue their ex-fiancé for damages. By damages, I mean they had maybe had premarital sex, and then she would be less marriageable, and so a lady could sue. Those laws started being stricken down in the 1930s and 40s, and so I think that it was a happy chance for De Beers that these diamond engagement rings were suddenly seen as assurance of value.
Yeah, an insurance policy.
Insurance, absolutely, yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And with this market, and I don't know, I think you guys are right, because it has to be somewhat of a happy accident. We can't say that De Beers somehow changed marriage laws. They just happened to be around at the same time. And, maybe they did. I don't know.
Maybe they did.
You guys have some wondering
money
faces.
in the right hands. You never know.
Oppenheimer was a big, powerful family.
Yes, and still are to this day. And now we can talk about some of the things that De Beers has done in the past and in the future to get a diamond from the ground to you if you're a person buying diamonds. They do restrict access, we know that, to ensure a higher price per stone, and they do it through a very interesting, I think interesting is a fair word, through a very interesting method. There are fewer than 200 people or entities that can buy these uncut diamonds. De Beers does uncut diamonds, and uncut diamonds are not that impressive. Right?
Yeah, it looks like
like a rock.
Like quartz almost.
Yeah.
Like it could be just a crystal.
Yeah, so these people who, these 200 in that rarefied air, they're called site holders, and they purchase the diamonds through something called the Central Selling Organization, which is a thing that De Beers owns, right? They sell a parcel of these uncut diamonds to one of these site holders. The site holder then sends the diamonds to a cutting facility, and then it goes to distributors, and then you get the advertisement, which is so famous in our neck of the woods. You get the Shane Company guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want me to do it, Ben?
I know that I'm putting you on the spot, but it's a really good one.
All right, let me see if I can find him. The Shane Company. Now you have a friend in the diamond business.
You are killing it with the voices today, my friend.
Hey, man, I'm trying really hard. I'm trying to impress you guys.
Well, it isn't working.
Cool.
So we have this strange business model, and it is so successful that even other diamond producers who are not associated with De Beers, there are a few, in Russia and Australia, are still affected by the prices set by this CSO.
You got to understand that the actual supply that's just out in distribution is so much smaller than the actual number of diamonds that are ready to be sent out if they need be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, what do they just have giant warehouses full of them?
No way.
Yup. Yes, they do.
Like Indiana Jones style?
Yeah.
Top men. Yeah. There is a warehouse in London that just has a lot of uncut stones waiting for that distribution period where they talk to the site holders who will later send stuff to the diamond cutters. Now, one of the big things that if you were listening to this now, you probably tuned in expecting to hear would be some of the facts about blood diamonds or conflict diamonds, which is the less sensational term. But what are they? What's going on with these?
Well, like we said earlier, the process of collecting and getting diamonds out of the earth is not an easy one. It's not a glamorous one. And it's not a high-paying job in any way whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really easily mechanized either.
No.
This is done by hand.
And it's done in places that a lot of times have been destabilized or are just not stable.
Mm-hmm.
I should have put that the other way. They're not stable or they've been destabilized. But, there is conflict in that area. A lot of it's in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
At least originally, especially, that's where it was done.
So this idea here is that these diamond sales are fueling local militias, or what would essentially be terrorist groups, right? And separatist factions are able to garner control of a mine and then sell the uncut stones under the table to unscrupulous suppliers who then give them cash so that these groups will use to buy more weapons, typically. I mean, they're not buying wingsuits.
It's the same black market situation that we've talked about a lot of other podcasts, especially like the drug trade black markets that are created when something is outlawed. But in this situation, there's nothing that's outlawed. It's just you've got a lot of guns and you can take control over an area. It's a very dangerous situation near a lot of these mines. And a lot of you don't really know if the gems that you're getting, like before this thing that we're about to talk about, you didn't know if the gems you're getting are clean, let's say, or not.
Yeah, arguably you still don't.
Oh, sure. Well, there was a big, I believe, media blitz that occurred in the 1980s, that brought this to the public's attention. And of course, De Beers wasn't really happy about loss of sales. I'm sure they were also not happy about loss of life.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't know that this kind of thing was going on.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're heartless.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
But so they got together with the UN and created this Kimberley process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the way of authenticating a diamond and saying this came from a legit mine and it was not used to fuel atrocities.
I think that they should call them legit diamonds, not conflict-free diamonds.
Nice. Yeah, because you still immediately think of the conflict.
Right.
And we should start working for heirs, you guys, or just De Beers directly. We've got some great ideas,
We call them clear conscience diamonds? I don't know.
I like that. Yeah, get the spiritual crowd.
Yeah. And also, it's one of the 4 C's, clear, right?
Nice. There you
okay.
go. Now it's 5 C's.
Well, Now we're becoming the bad guys here. The thing with the Kimberley process is that it does not track individual stones. It tracks batches of stones, and it has a lot of criticism. You will see ratings as high as 99% of diamonds being conflict-free now, thanks to the Kimberley process, but it hinges on what you define. It hinges on your definition terms, right?
Maybe all of the bad batches of conflict diamonds are in that warehouse in London. Maybe they keep them there.
Oh, till they can pass, it must be like customs, till they can pass customs under assumed diamond identities.
That's what it is.
I'm joking around, but it is a really unsettling issue.
Yeah. I'm sorry I'm being so jokey about it. This is a horrifying reality.
It's almost impossible, I find, to not kind of be light about this sort of thing, just so that I'm not in here just sobbing onto the microphone cover.
Yeah,
especially when I think about the diamonds that are on my wife's finger. So, yeehaw.
Well, it's doing something, but candidly speaking, the effects are middling. At least if you listen to the critics. In fact, one of the nonprofit groups that's created the Kimberley process, this place called Global Witness, they're not going to participate in it. In 2011, they said they're out of it, and they called it an accomplice to diamond laundering because, the weakness of the Kimberley process is that it depends upon paperwork and bureaucracy in some of the easily most corrupt areas of the world. So how much do you have to pay somebody to stamp your diamonds and launder them?
When you own a diamond cartel, you have money to do it, so.
Yeah.
Also, diamond launderer just sounds like a cool job. I like that. And I am going to, Matt, I feel like I've unfairly put you on the spot, asking you to do some voices. So I'm going to do Leonardo DiCaprio from Blood Diamond.
Yes! Oh, I've been waiting for this.
They have a word for people like me. Ubuntu. It means white man in Africa. That's it. That's all I got.
That was great, man.
That was pretty good.
Really?
It's
Wow.
better than my Leonardo DiCaprio.
Do you have a Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
That's okay. All right. Well, if you want to pipe in and surprise us with it, we could definitely use some lighthearted stuff in, as we said, a very heavy and difficult issue, because the conflict diamonds, or the price that people pay in human life, doesn't stop at the mine. In India, where the vast majority of the world's smaller diamonds are cut, it depends upon child labor. There's no way around that.
Mm-hmm. And that's because of the size of the diamonds, right? And
because their tiny hands are the best at getting. Oh, that's okay.
Yep, that's
okay.
The truth.
Yeah, and there are all kinds of effects on kids who work in this kind of field, if you wouldn't even call it that. There's all kinds of things like severe eye strain, motion injuries, lung infections from inhaling diamond dust when they're cutting diamonds. And those are just a few of the things that these children are affected with. And that's freaking depressing.
Yeah, our Valentine's episode is turning out to be kind of a downer, you guys. So De Beers also has some legal issues. They can't exist in countries with antitrust laws, which, although Comcast may not have heard, the United States still has. The antitrust laws in the United States, while not perfect, do create a large obstacle for De Beers, which is why you see it working through intermediaries, retail jewelers. You see those vague ad campaigns. There was one where there's just two silhouettes meeting, and only the ring is visible.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty cool, actually. Numerous academics have also accused De Beers of either accidentally supporting conflicts in Sierra Leone, South Africa, other areas of the continent, or purposefully destabilizing an area to gain control of a mine.
No.
You don't like it?
I don't like it one bit.
Bad company.
However, De Beers was in U.S. courts as recently as 2004 when they pled guilty to price fixing in an effort to get into the United States. And you'll be glad to know, Matt, that the United States remains the biggest single market in the diamond business.
Oh, good. Well, I'm not the only sucker. Thank you also, Lauren, for your reassurance earlier.
Yeah, no problem.
There's one other thing we should talk about, though, and that's the future of diamonds, right? Which is going to be changing due to the advent of synthetic diamonds.
Yeah, lab-created diamonds are pretty nifty.
Mm-hmm. And probably conflict-free. I mean, there might be people arguing in the lab, but I don't know how far they went with it. Through a process called chemical vapor deposition, these diamonds can be created to a point where they are as good as a natural diamond, so much so that the differences are indiscernible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can even be more pure, it can be created better. We can make them better. And we
Stronger, faster, more seductive.
That's right.
Yes.
And the coolest thing to me is that we can recreate those pressures and the heat that exist so deep in the earth.
Yeah. And traditionally, I think this process has been used for scientific diamonds, because diamonds are tremendously useful in certain lab applications, mostly involving lasers and cool pew-pew stuff like that. Yeah. And the lower quality ones are the ones that you're going to see on a saw or something like that. You probably don't need to turn to a lab to create a diamond good enough to grind up and put on a saw blade. But maybe you should. Maybe that would really be better for all of us. And the prices are starting to come down, I think, as this technology improves. Improves is a good word, yes.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, I'm personally crossing my fingers that this will be able to create a second market.
Yeah.
Or I guess a third market, because there's a second market of vintage diamonds.
Right, yeah, the heirlooms you find at estate sales and such.
And the culture, I would say, is arguably shifting away, at least slightly, from diamonds. And I remember I had the conversation with my wife before purchasing a diamond, whether or not we should get a diamond, because of things like that movie that we kind of made fun of, but the Blood Diamonds movie, and awareness that was created around that time, for me at least, and maybe my generation. We almost didn't get one.
Yeah.
But then we did.
Also, I wasn't making fun of that movie. I watched it this week earlier.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
I just don't want people to feel like I'm unfairly dismissing Blood Diamond. And on this show, we do try to be fair. This leads us to some interesting questions. De Beers, the organization itself, has clearly and provably done terrible things in the past, but is De Beers wrong for convincing the world that they need this thing that they don't need? Is that wrong, or is that business?
Yep, that's wrong. It's flat out not okay. Well, I mean, it's very clever business. It's mind-blowingly impressive what they have done with this commodity that was previously worthless, that is now on the finger of a near countless number of people around the world.
Yeah, it's kind of like lobster, you know, how people used to hate lobster. It was food for orphans.
Yeah. Well, in certain areas where there was too much lobster going around, you know, its servants had to, there was a law that was placed in New England way back in the day that was like, y'all cannot service lobster more than like 3 times a week for serious.
Yeah, because you start to get that rabbit starvation if that's all you eat.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's a podcast for a different day, along with many of the other conflict resources on the African continent, including, if you were listening to this on a smartphone, some of the stuff inside your phone as you hold it right now. I don't know where we go from there.
That's really great.
Yeah. I'm like, yay, the world is terrible.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's bring it up now. Lauren, we want to thank you so much for coming onto our podcast. Where's the best place for people to catch you in the meantime?
In general, you can go to brainstuffshow.com or just howstuffworks.com, and my picture's up there of the one with the bangs. You'll find me.
The one with the bangs.
And you can find Lauren on youtube.com/howstuffworks and youtube.com/brainstuffshow.
Oh, yeah, and fwthinking.com.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like we said, you're pretty much everywhere on the internet.
Yeah. And thank you guys so much for having me on the show. This has been so much fun. In a really depressing way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to have to go look at some photos or puppies or something. But
Baby hedgehogs.
Yeah, baby hedgehogs.
They're
Yeah.
great.
Really? That's the go-to now?
Yeah.
So if you want to send us an uplifting picture of a cute animal, if you enjoyed this podcast, well, I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but if you thought this podcast was worthwhile, then please let us know. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. You can check out every single podcast we have ever done on our website, stufftheydon'twantyoutoKnow.com. Man, that's a long name.
It's the best one, though.
Is it? Every
Yeah.
time we say it, partway through saying it, I go, wow, I'm still saying that name.
It's got such authority. It's so huge.
Yeah, it will crush you with its lettery might.
Lettery might. I like it.
And that's the end of this classic episode. If you have any thoughts or questions about this episode, you can get into contact with us in a number of different ways. One of the best is to give us a call. Our number is 1-833-STDWYTK. If you don't want to do that, you can send us a good old-fashioned email. We are
conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.